All right, guys, ladies, gentlemen, we've got our third podcast here at the W in Brisbane. We've got Drew Davies, one of the most well-known agents in the country, has been one of the most followed agents in the country for a very long time now. I've personally followed your journey for many years since you really got into real estate. You really started popping up on Insta, doing some really cool videos and all that sort of stuff. And the one thing that I've really, really admired about you is two things. One, massive family man. Massive family man. You've been able to grow a business to a very, very admirable size, whilst also keeping a really, really strong family connection. Two, from what we can see from the outside. Two, your bodies, you've just changed. Like you've just shredded, bro.
Take a look at the physique.
So, my first question for you obviously came into real estate a little bit later on. How have you been able to navigate and compete with a lot of younger agents where, you know, they don't particularly have the same commitments as you do. They don't have the kids. They don't have the wife. They don't have all these other things that they have to worry about. How have you been able to crack that code and push through?
I don't know if I feel like I have cracked that code, you know, but I think if you were to bring it down to one thing, it would just be prioritization.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny you mentioned about the family man. That's my wife, you know. From the outside, it may look like that, and I do try and dedicate a lot of quality time to my kids and my wife. But that is typically after work and Sundays and once or twice a year on a holiday. So I don't feel like I've nailed it, but I do prioritize health. You know, so I have a process and a routine in the mornings, and that starts every day with the gym. And that gives me 4:44 is when the alarm goes off every day. Well, I say every day. There's been I'll hit snooze once or twice a week, but usually it's always before 5. I'll be in the gym by 5:30. 40 minutes weights, a little bit of cardio, sauna, cold shower. And that gives me the energy to get through the day. So work gives me energy. I know it can drain a lot of people. That's what I get excited about. And then, it gives me the motivation to then, have that quality family time as well.
Yeah. And you've also now started to obviously creep into the real luxury markets and all that sort of stuff. How have you been able to grow into that?
Yeah, good question. It was always... I started selling one-bedroom apartments.
Yeah.
11 years ago, I didn't have a car, and I worked for a boutique in the city. And I didn't tell them I didn't have a car. When they found out, they were like, dude, you can't sell real estate. And I looked out the window and I said, well, I'll sell over there in that building. And that's what I did. I just walked around the city to these one-bedroom apartments, $280,000, $320,000. And the eyes were on the prize, right? You're looking at Hamilton Hill going, I want to sell those big bangers up there. So that was all, and everyone thought I was crazy. And part of me thought I was crazy too. But you've got to have that dream, I think, every single day. And those dreams don't happen quickly either. Like that was a lot. I'm still working on it. I'm still working on that dream. So I think it was a slow progression. There was one point in time where it all changed, and I sold an apartment in the city through social media, and this is way back. I think it was probably 2015. Sold it to someone in Dubai, I think it was.
Yep.
Parents of someone who lived in Brisbane saw my Instagram post. Now, that seller was so blown away that I sold that on social media. She said, you have to speak to my daughter. She's been trying to sell her house on Hamilton Hill. Oh. And I went in there, I pitched on it, I got outside, I sat in my car, and I just thought, I have no idea what I'm doing. No idea. So I'd seen Marcus Chiminello speak a couple of months prior, and I was like, I'm just going to call him. So I called him. Of course, he didn't answer. I left a message. And I'm sitting there thinking, he's never going to agree to spending time with me. So I just booked a flight. To go see him. So he called back and started saying the whole, mate, I'm too busy. I said, unfortunately.
Wow.
I arrive on Friday.
So you booked a flight?
Yeah, on a credit card. I was stone cold broke. When I say broke, rent was going on a credit card.
Shit.
Everything was going on a credit card.
Holy shit.
So I rocked up.
Talk about a power play.
Yeah, it had to be, right? And I thought if I'm going to get advice, I really like the way he articulates himself. He's an absolute master of his craft. Still to this day, I seek, words of advice from Marcus. So I just turned up, got the advice that I thought I needed, listed the property and sold that property, and that was $3,050,000 back then, which was, I think, my highest sale price before that was well under $1 million. So that was what gave me the opportunity, and I just knew what I've always been good at is capitalizing on any small advantage I have. Didn't grow up with a lot of opportunities or advantages, so anytime I get my foot in the door, it's on, and I will just market the hell out of that. And that was because of Instagram as well, the guerrilla marketing techniques that I was using through that. So that was the start, and it didn't happen quickly. Like I said, I'm still chasing that dream, and we're 9 years after that sale.
Yeah.
Wow. I'd actually love to delve a bit deeper into that story. What were some of the key takeaways you learnt through that process of selling a big purchase price asset? I'm actually doing a deal now for my highest purchase of 4.8 at the moment off market. What were some of the things that you've learnt through that process that you could share people that are trying to take that step into pushing into the higher purchase prices they've never done before?
I think it's interesting that a lot of agents think they want to sell that higher priced property. It can be a different way of doing things. That adrenaline hit is not coming every day. You know, you're putting a lot of time and effort into things that may not sell.
Yeah.
So I went from selling 1-bedroom apartments, you know, back then we were getting a lot of foot traffic through door, a lot of interstate investors. So there was a lot of time spent on the phone. So you go from that to having an open home on back then considered a luxury property and getting 1, 2 people through the door.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure you capitalize on that 1 or 2, you know, relationships you're creating in that open home. You know, and the way you do that is just through buyer work, and sometimes you have to go show them 4 other properties to educate them back to yours.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that can be a hard thing, especially when back then I had the one property. You know, so I'm talking to other agents. Can I get them through your listing? So
Really?
of course, well, I had to create something. You know, so that's where a lot of actually friendships were created back then as well.
How have you been able to grow your social media? What did you do that different that you think helped you grow?
The one thing no one else will do, and that's just doing it.
Fucking true.
You know, the rocket science to this is absolutely effing zero. Zero. And I did it at a time, you know, 2014, where I managed to capitalize on that algorithm, you know, because it was pumping. If you were posting, they were pumping. Yeah. So, and like I said, I didn't have a lot at that point in time. I was broke, but I could afford a pair of socks and a cup of coffee. Yeah. So every day I'd be at the office first. I didn't have a key. No one would give me a key. So I'd wait outside with my cup of coffee and I'd take a photo of my socks holding my coffee cup. So it was socks and coffee. That's what I'd post. And it was only about, I don't know, it wasn't long, 3 months, a pair of socks turned up at work. And I was like, there's something to this.
Yeah.
So then I kept it up and I was posting every day. And then it got to the point where I had hundreds of pairs of unopened socks. And I'm sitting there thinking,
what?
You can transition an audience, you know, and these sock owners and companies own houses too. You know, a lot of people do. So it was just a matter of getting that audience and then transitioning it across, you know, and then I met my to-be wife. So then I'd put her in the post as well. She came with this horrible cat. So then the cat would be in the post, you know. So then it was socks and coffee, wife and cat. And then it was just, and then dropping in real estate as well. And it's just, you just have that rhythm that you can repeat that is your life. So it's not forced, you know, because everyone asks that exact question. How do I get my social media happening? And it is a lot harder now. Yeah. You got to pay to play. Yeah. But it's not hard. What revolves around your actual life? Do you play squash? Do you play whatever it is, rugby? Well, put that in there.
So true, right? Everyone's just listed just sold.
Yeah, that's it. Like no one wants to see that. No one wants to see it, man. And people want to see, it's that digital interview, right? Yeah. That's what social media is. It's the digital interview. Yeah. And there's no immediate ROI. That's why it's such a pain and everyone pushes it to the side. Or they overthink it and spend 2 hours and still don't post.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
you just got to put it on autopilot. You know, you wake up, what am I doing? Having a coffee. Cool. Well, post the coffee. People say, well, that's stupid. Well, it's not. Put a little spiel in there about the local coffee shop and why you like having coffee there. You know, make it cool.
It's so true. Like we just started posting every day and like we didn't know if we were good or not and it just started happening. But I think that it's so fucking true.
To build an audience now is very difficult.
But you just got to post.
Yeah, just got to post.
Just got to fucking post.
Yeah.
Matt Pilios said it, consistency is what builds trust. And that stuck with me. Like if you can be consistent with posting, then it builds the trust. Yeah. You see a lot of people, they'll post one day but not post.
Completely agree with that. Consistency and accessibility. If you can be consistent, people have access to you. That's why I think it's very important you take care of your social media yourself. It's the same with leadership in an office. You know, if you're consistent and you're accessible, it'll lead to success.
What's changed for you since, like, I know a few years ago you opened up your own offices. Well, now you've got 2 offices. What's been the big change for you from, just being a sales agent to now actually being a business owner too?
Good question. There's been a few changes. I think they're all for the better, but it's like having a family. You know, when you've got an office and other agents and property managers and admin staff that you have to help look after, I think it forces you to be a less selfish version of yourself. And I think that's everything. That's something that a lot of salespeople could benefit from because it's hard. You know, we're dealing in an environment that's very much you're working hard for yourself to earn. You know, and the minute you've got to throw other people in there and you're actually, you're judged on how they're performing too, you're forced into that situation. And that there's a learning curve. I was not a born leader by any means. I still don't class myself as one. So it's a learning curve. I'm halfway there.
Yeah. So how have you been able to inspire? This is something that so in my business at the moment, or the business that I'm in at the moment, like I'm taking on a sales manager role for one of the offices. What would be your suggestion for me to really, really inspire these agents and their associates to perform better?
For me, I think the key is leading by example.
Yeah.
But that's also how I like to be led.
Yeah.
So everyone is individual and different. So they're almost like a little Rubik's Cube you have to work out individually.
Yeah.
Because although some people like to be, led by example, other people may view that as, well, look at this person shooting over there by himself. So there's balance to everybody. I think getting to know your staff individually is a big key to that. But at the core of it is performance. If you can show that you're a high performer, you're energetic, energy is everything. If you're the one bringing energy to the office every day, you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Talk to me a bit more on the energy and the performance piece. What are you doing to stay on top of that?
I think I've got a business partner, Patrick McKinnon. I think we're very good at holding each other accountable as well. We can tell when each other. I've been off the last couple of days, right? And he'll pull me aside and say, "Look, let's have a wine and chat this out." Because sometimes you just got to think things through before I'll put it on anyone's plate, But he can always tell, and I can always tell with him. But it's big energy. Like I said, I'm not sure if we keep each other sane or keep each other crazy, but it works. And it's I don't know. It's something that I see in a lot of high performers is that energy level. Are they turning it on, or are they just on? Because I feel like when I'm working, I feel I'm on. I enjoy it. It's what gives me energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not something you can fake. And in saying that, I do know a lot of agents that are a lot more reserved than I am as well, and they do very well. It's just what I enjoy being around is high energy.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it? Fucking good
Enthusiasm,
energy.
baby.
It is, baby. Fucking fire up.
How do you create great culture in the office?
That's something we talk about all the time. I think we've done a good job of it. Pat and I are 6 years into these 2 offices. We've got a good attraction business. We get a lot of agents reaching out to us. There's always going to be issues. You can never have that holy grail of culture perfection. But I think, again, it comes back to consistency and accessibility for the leaders in the office. Can people talk to you? Do they have access? Do they see you performing on a daily basis? Yeah. It's hard not to get excited around high performers, There's deals, it's that adrenaline hit, it's happening. You like it, I like it. What do you want to be around? A quiet office? Or do you want, do you want a lot of chatter, people pumping the fists in the air and going hard? I mean, that's what gets me excited. It's like a football game when your team's winning, right?
So what happens if you walk past and a sales agent's just sitting on social media? What do you say?
That I probably wouldn't jump. I might make a remark, but that's probably not the point where I'm going to jump in and say, "Hey, get back to making calls." Yeah. I think people have to drive their own behaviour. Sometimes there's a difference between putting a hand on a shoulder and say, "We may be a little bit off track here." That's a lot different to telling someone off. They run their business. They're the master of their own destiny, and you have to encourage that. I think where a lot of people go wrong is, there's so much noise in the world right now, right? Like everywhere you look, there's so much drama, and people take that drama on for themselves.
They fucking do.
And it's you can't change everyone else. That's why I've always been a big fan of, you can change what you do and how you react. 90% of how you affect people is how you react. And it's the same thing I tell my boys every morning, right? Strong body, strong mind, big heart. And I tell them that every morning and every night. Simple, they can remember it, and you can repeat it.
Yeah.
Because those are all three things you can change yourself. And as long as you can look after yourself and be a good person, that's where it starts. You know, you can't worry about what everyone else is doing all the time. You can't change other people, but if you change yourself, sometimes other people come along for the ride.
I like that a lot.
When did that?
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
What do you learn out of that?
Fuck, don't say nothing. You make me feel bad, man.
Repeat the answer. Repeat the answer one more time, because I'm thinking a couple of thoughts, but I want to answer it right.
I went on such a tangent there. What was the original question?
The question was, how does somebody lead or tell someone off that's on social media? And you were very big on saying you don't want to tell them off, they're the master of their own destiny. And you were big on saying, be focused on building yourself. And you gave a great analogy of strong morning, strong body, strong mind, strong heart.
Keep in mind, being on social media might be a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, they might be working.
I think I think I agree with that. I do agree with that. I'm about to implement like the Josh Vegan 45 minutes on, 15 minutes off.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to implement. First call sessions go at 8, 15, finish at 12. After 12, you know, you should be out door knocking, whatever you're doing, appointments, this, that. Now, so I agree in a sense, but I agree in a sense where, like, if I'm going to start walking around the office, right? And if I see someone on social media, I'm just going to tap them and say, hey, 15-minute break. Like that, you've still got 8 minutes to go. So I don't think I'm going to tell them off, but I think it's just going to be okay, Dan.
That's different. If there's allocated time,
Yeah.
right, that's a little bit different. But if that person's billing $1 million, are you still telling them off? You know, it's hard.
Maybe not.
But it's hard,
isn't it?
right? Because you can't have one rule for one and not for the other.
Yeah,
so there's all these different nuances, you know, that you learn.
I'm starting this role tomorrow, so it's going to be a really interesting thing for me to see how these guys react. And look, there are a few high performers in this office that are doing some good numbers, you know, over $1 million. I've called them all and I've said, hey, look, here's the deal. This is the situation. Are you okay for me to you know, say words and discipline you guys if I see them off? And they said, yes. And I said, how about you? Are you okay if I say this to you? And they said, please. So I'm really hoping they take it on board, but I think we got a really good crew and that culture is going to start to really, really pump.
And you'll probably fine tune that as you go along as well.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, what would be your best piece of advice for, you know, someone, you know, in this position?
I think, look, I'm not the best person to give advice because I still don't feel I've mastered that craft. And if you look at who you've had on your podcast, man, it's overwhelming. I'm not sure if I should even be sitting here sometimes, you know. I think as long as your people feel respected and have self-worth, that's what's important. I think they'll always come along for the ride if you can give them those two things. So
True.
You know, you've kind of got to work with that. Like I said, it's easy to try and implement, and I've done it a million times before. You try and implement something, and this is how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. Or there was a little grey area that you hadn't thought about. So it's hard. It's hard. But I think, you know, you've got to empower people to be, like I said, the master of their own destiny.
Yeah. Do you go into their goals and stuff? Do you delve deep into them?
Yeah, I think there's
personally?
two different levels to that, right? There's GCI goals and there's personal goals. And people are driven by different things. You know, in work, personally, I'm driven by GCI.
Yeah.
You know, for my private life and my future and my family's future. But what am I actually driven by? You know, if I take a step back from work and look at the offices, it's really satisfying seeing people succeed. Like a lot more satisfying than I ever thought it would be.
Yep.
Especially when you get someone who really turns it around, you know, who you sit there and you question yourself sometimes. Do they have it?
Yeah.
And then you stick with them and they do. That's probably the most satisfying thing I've gone through in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I ask, what do your current goals look like personally and professionally?
Travel with the family. My boys are 5 and 6 now. So
they're going to be enjoying this, huh?
yeah. And look, we haven't really, you know, like that. And now it's at the point where I'm like, I want to travel with them. So that's, you know, if I can once a year, twice a year, if I could travel with the family, that would be perfection.
What changed in your life? Because, you know, you've had you went through a lot of change over the past 10 years, and, you know, obviously you got into real estate a little bit later on. What happened? What happened in your mind to shift?
I was sick of myself. I was sick. If I'm being really bluntly honest, I was really sick of the person I was.
Why?
Just constantly feeding myself bullshit as well, not just everyone else around me. You know, I was caught up in my own. You know, I wasn't earning a lot of money. Certainly wasn't happy in my role and what I was doing, but I'd still be in the pub 3 nights a week. You know, and you know, the bank balance was not reflecting. Well, no, it was reflecting my misery. Is what it was reflecting. And I just had this, not a come to Jesus moment, but I just, you know, had this moment where I was like, man, you got to stop this shit. You know, and I was either 31 or 32. And I really do remember it like it was yesterday. And I said, I would rather give this a real go and fail at 40 and then go back to whatever it is that I can settle down and go, do you know what? I don't have it. I don't have it. This is now my destiny. I would rather do that than be 40 still pulling this same old shit.
Yeah.
So that was when I just gave it everything from that day. And I really did give it everything.
Was it, but what was it a catalyst, that catalyst moment, was it you looking in the mirror, like literally looking in the mirror?
Literally looking in the mirror.
And just going, shit, I hate this.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep.
Powerful.
Yeah.
What was the process out of that position? What did it look like?
Man, it wasn't pretty. Like, because I wasn't a great agent. I didn't have a lot of natural skills that some people have. So I would get to work early. I would sit on the phone all day. I would go home. I would pop a sleeping pill. I would watch an episode of Suits, fall asleep, wake up and repeat. And I don't recommend that to anybody. But for me, that was what I needed to just focus on what I was doing. And that's why Suits is so important to me. That show, you know, that my firstborn's named Harvey.
Really?
Yeah.
I spent, you know,
That's cool. There
I
you
spent
go.
2 years tracking down the 1967 fastback Mustang, which is Harvey's exact car
Wow.
to buy.
Did ya?
Yeah, just last year. It took me a long time to find it and then to purchase it, and yeah, it was
So
a mission.
wow.
man.
Yeah, obsessed with.
Do you have a
So
favorite
cool, man.
suit?
No, I don't. I used to like Suits, but it's one of those things. As you get busier, you prioritize,
Yeah.
and things like Suits just look. Appearance is important. How you present is important, but it's just not something that I can't even like to go spend 2 hours with a tailor to talk about a suit and get measured is just not exciting to me.
Yeah. What excites you?
Sundays in the backyard with my boys,
Yeah.
kicking a footy.
That's your driver.
That's
What-
what excites me.
What was the driver back then? I know you just touched on it a little bit in terms of you were sick of yourself, but what kept the drive going when the going got tough?
Money. With it just was. I wish there was a better answer, but it just
it's
was.
the raw truth. That's
Yeah.
the raw truth,
So
right?
I grew up, I'm an only child. Dad was an artist, mum was a house cleaner. You know, both did their best to sort of change my destiny, but there were always things from their past that are always going to be a hangover, right? Yeah. So
Was there anything in particular that affected you in that journey?
look, there are plenty of people that have worse upbringings than me, right? But I don't particularly like New Zealand. I couldn't, like, coming to Australia to me was like, let's go, fresh start. Like, so I think money was important because I never had it. But I've also never been that person to, when I have it, to want to hold on to it. It's just the next. I'm not one of these people that, I don't know, it's more about the win for me than the money. But I needed to go through that process to understand that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it was the money. I had nothing, you know, and I was borrowing money. I tapped my mum out. I was, you know, borrowing 10 grand off your mum when you're 32 years old to pay rent is not a really great feeling, you know, for anybody. So I backed myself into a corner where I really had very limited options but to succeed.
You were sink or swim at that point, man.
Oh, I was beyond sink or swim, man. I was drowning.
That's true.
Yeah, I was drowning. Yeah, it was. I remember there was a point there where I had a come in, and I think that commission was 3,700 on a 1-bedroom apartment, and it was a lifesaver. You know, so you can't underestimate. This is what I say to my agents: you cannot underestimate what you're doing now and how that will affect you in the future. All you have to do is be resilient, you know, and just keep going. It's that. I hate to simplify it to that effect, but it's the truth.
It's the truth, 100% truth. So, what did you do on those dark days? You know, those days when you go, fuck, this is bad, like bad. What
I've
do you
always
do?
been pretty good at, I don't get, like, I'll compartmentalize it to the fact where I will just put down that phone and then pick up the phone.
Yeah.
You know, I probably, you know, I was very good at not dwelling on anything. that phone was my savior. That was it.
Okay.
Because that was my way, right? I had no other way to make money. It was that phone. There was no one in the office to help me.
But how did you deal with it emotionally and mentally?
Suits, sleeping.
Suits and sleeping. Suits and sleeping.
Yeah.
Wow. Do you do much self-development? Like in terms of books, audiobooks, podcasts, that sort of stuff, or not really?
Yeah, I listen to podcasts every morning. Wide range of podcasts, but just when I'm in the gym, I'll always be listening to a podcast.
Yeah. No music?
Very rarely music. I used to listen to music, and I'm just like, well, again, priorities. I can't fit it all in.
Yeah.
I used to listen to it in the car. Now, if I'm in the car and I'm not on the phone, I'm probably doing something wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. Got you. Now, in terms of your guys that are in your office, how do you lead them to the point where, you know, you can lead the horse to the water, right? They have to drink themselves, but how are you leading them to that water? Like, what are you doing? What are you saying?
Look, you're exactly right. You can't make them drink, but we try and be a very collaborative office. Genuinely, I know there's a lot of people who say that, but we try and be a bit of a lead generation machine for our agents. So that way, so there's always something going out to someone. So that way, and we try and do it on a really fair and equal basis. So no one's ever sitting there with nothing, because sometimes all people need is the chance. You give them that chance, and if they're hungry and they take it with both hands, they will turn that 1 into 4.
Yeah, yes. And that momentum, isn't it?
You give it to someone who's a little bit complacent, they'll say, thank you very much. And they're on to the next one. You've got to be hungry. And that's why we of course, we look at it and we monitor it. And we love these people who appreciate it and just charge and, turn that 1 into 2.
Yep. And in terms of hiring and firing, are you quick to hire, quick to fire, or what's your approach like?
I think we've probably in the past been guilty of quick to hire, taking too long to fire, I think.
Yeah.
But we're pretty good. Our churn is very, very low. So we're really happy with our staff and how we're tracking.
Okay. Beautiful. Now, what's next for Drew Davies and Place? Where are you guys going? What's the next plan?
Oh, we've been talking about this third office for a long time now. It's just proven a little bit harder to get than I thought. So, look, I think the third office is definitely happening. We're having a few chats at the moment regarding that third office, which would potentially grow us exponentially.
Yes.
And apart from that, it's just travel and.
Do you do much real estate deals yourself, like in terms of investing or flipping or development?
Here and there. I've got one settling with my business partner. We bought a little holiday home down in Burleigh that settles next month, and we'll probably do another one straight after that. But here and there.
Are you Airbnb-ing these?
No, not that one. We want that one for ourselves. But look, really relevant question to ask, and I know a lot of real estate agents do it to great success, but I sit there and I go, well, I could roll the dice on that, or I could just keep doing what I'm doing. We've got two offices which take a lot of time. I'm probably better off just helping the agent sell and selling myself. That's how I personally, maybe down the track. But no, definitely developing is not something I'm interested in at this stage.
Yeah.
Maybe building myself a house.
Yeah.
But again, time and energy and, can I really, I like my house. My house is fine. Yeah, I don't really get too excited by things like I see these beautiful homes, and I used to work in architecture. I absolutely love, especially some of the architects we have in Brisbane right now. But
yeah, well, look at your home.
Yeah, and it's like, do I want to put aside what I'm good at doing at this time of my life to focus on building a house? Not really.
Yeah.
I'm very limited in what I can concentrate on at any one time.
Yeah.
I'm very limited.
So in terms of your days now, what do your days look like in terms of listing and selling? Are you mainly managing the business, or are you mainly listing and selling?
Look, head office manages a lot of our back. They take a lot of stuff off our plate. So managing the business is really just coming down to staff day to day. But we've also just hired a head of growth or a sales manager as well. So that it just allows Pat and I to just go out and list and negotiate deals. That's it. So that's, we would expect a big uptick in our GCI even from where we're at now just because of that.
And what's that growth, the head of growth, the guy that you just put on, what's his daily task going to look like?
Look, he's got 3 things he's going to look after. You've got a marketing budget. So he's out there in the community looking at things to sponsor and what may happen there. You've got, recruitment and retention, which is obviously a huge part of it. And we have sales targets in regards to agents we want to approach and talk with. And then you've got the property management side of the business as well.
Yeah. Okay. And in terms of in terms of your own listing and selling, have there been periods of time where you've lost confidence in yourself?
Oh man, every day, every day.
Yeah.
Like I try not to. There's a really great quote that I absolutely adore: "Money lost, nothing lost. Confidence lost,
Ooh.
everything lost."
I like that.
So I bring it back to that every time I can. So confidence is key in this game.
Yeah.
You know, you may lose a few. It just means you're not taking enough shots, right? It's the old MJ quote.
Yes.
So you just got to make sure. We're very good at like, all right, move on. Like I said, I try not to dwell on anything. But of course, your confidence gets knocked all the time. It might be something someone says, or it might be a listing. There's a ton of things that knock your confidence.
Yeah.
I think for someone to say they're immune to it, I think is a little bit rich. I think it's more being able to deal with it and actually tune it out and
How are you able to recenter? Do you do anything to recenter?
try and win more business. Try and
Yeah.
take another shot.
So, let me get this straight. You're very much like how I was when I was saying, it's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
The more, but if you make more calls than the guy next to you, you're going to win, right?
Yeah, it is. And of course, there's a skill to that, right? But if you've got twice the skill, but someone's making 10 times the calls and 10 times the listing appointments, well, there's a reality to it that means you're probably going to be behind.
Yeah. Like I've got a really interesting story. We hired we poached this guy a year ago this month, really. A year ago last week, actually. It came from a completely different part of Sydney. We put him in a completely set, 2-3 suburbs separate from where our office is. So no one, and we're a boutique agency, right? No one knows who we are. Well, out that way, they didn't. And he really wanted to work the area. All he did is make 200 phone calls a day, door knocks at 8 p.m. at night, do that 7 days a week. In his first year, he's just done 700 by himself.
There you go.
And he's knocking and people are going, Manor Real Estate who? Manor who? Who's that?
Yeah.
And he did 700. But the thing is, he is the hardest worker in the room. And guess what? And Adiz will listen to this as well. So this isn't a shot at you. It's not like he was the most polished either. Like he wasn't the most polished. He doesn't have the best suits. He doesn't have the car.
So in reality, he's got every excuse to say it's not his fault, right? Doesn't have the car, the suits, the brand. He's in a new area. He's got every reason.
No data, no nothing.
Yeah.
And he just came in firing. And by the end of this, he'll be the number one in probably one of the biggest suburbs in Sydney. So,
That's success. That's ultimate accountability. It's all on him.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what he would say if you asked him why he's gone and done it.
Yeah. It's just more calls than the guy next to you.
Yeah.
Do you think though you can work smarter and not harder though? Do you think there's a way around that?
Look, of course, I think you can, but I've got to be careful, right? Because I see so many agents that's all they think. I'm going to work smarter, not harder. I think there's a limit. You got to put in the hard work. There's no other way around it. No one doing big deals is finishing at 4 or 5. You know, that's just not happening. So you're not going to be able to reduce your time. Can you increase efficiency? Absolutely, whether that be technology or process. It's one of the two, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you look the tricky points in a big deal that you've learned over the years that you could share?
Oh, I think we're dealing with humans. You know, this is the business. We're dealing with humans. That's what makes it tricky. You know, you're not just selling a product where the buyer may say no. You're dealing with, the buyer may say, yeah, I want to buy it, and the seller may say no. You know, it becomes exponentially harder. Just all the nuances that come with human beings. I mean, that's what what we get paid for, to work these things out, right?
Yeah. Very much is a game of that communication and understanding, and like a chess game, isn't it?
It's communication. I think that's what the great agents, my personal thoughts, if you look at all the great agents, they're great communicators. In every way that they deal. It's not just how they articulate themselves. You can communicate with your body language, the way you dress. I know that's rich when I'm sitting here in a T-shirt, but just everything about them. They're great communicators. They're really good at getting their point across.
How were you able to upskill yourself in real estate when you came in at a later stage? What were you doing?
To upskill myself?
Besides watching Suits.
Besides watching Suits? I learn a lot from Suits, to be honest, man. Just being around high performers, great agents, people willing to share their knowledge. I've never been afraid of seeking out a mentor. And sometimes you can outgrow a mentor as well. That just being smart enough to know to know where the best advice is going to come from. So at any one time, I've always got people that are a lot smarter than me around me, and that's why Place especially is brilliant, because there's so many high performers. There's not once where I'm ever lacking or thinking, who do I need to speak to? I don't know an answer for this. There's always someone who I go, that's who I'm going to call.
Yeah, that's your guy.
And even outside, sometimes it's important to go outside of the business, interstate, international as well. There are people in Palm Springs I speak with as well.
How do you manage people? Like, I've had a couple of times throughout the past year where I've had associates that have gone through, things in their own personal life, and they might not be performing because of things outside of their job. How do you manage that?
That's the hardest thing, right? Because like I said, I'm good at dealing with problems myself.
Yeah.
But you also have to be conscious of the fact that if you've got staff or anyone around you and they're dealing with a problem, you've got to be smart enough to realize to them that's the biggest problem.
Yeah.
So you've always just got to see how you can help that person get through it. Because sometimes those problems can seem pretty minor, but in that person's life they're the biggest thing ever. So I think when you can show humility and understanding, no matter how small and minor these problems can seem, it's always going to get an outcome.
Yeah. In terms of your agents that have, the ones that have taken on board and, grabbed that ball and ran, what's the difference between them and the ones that don't run?
All the reasons we just discussed. It's just putting in the hours and communication.
Yeah.
Picking up. It's funny. Really I knew I was going to get asked at some point, because you always do. If there was a new agent, what are your A, B, C, and D?
Yeah.
And I almost feel like I'm not the best qualified to answer that, because if you look at every top agent who's ever given that answer, it's all the same.
It's all the same.
It might be worded slightly different, but if you break down that A, B, C, D, it's all the same. And that's why I typically give an answer that's more aligned with, I think it's more important that people get themselves right in the sales industry, because this is a taxing industry, right? No matter what people say, it's a mentally taxing industry. So I think getting yourself right in that energy, which is why gym is so important, I feel.
Yeah.
And just keeping those energy levels high.
Definitely. And I feel like if you don't, like, I've gone through this, obviously not recent, but like in the past, where you don't have a cup full in one area of your life, it affects every area of your life.
Of course.
How do you how do you try and manage those people when they are going through those times? Like, do you give them time off? What do you do? I
think it comes down to the individual. Some people need time off in those circumstances. Without knowing the circumstance, it's always it's a bit of a warzy-woozy. But you've just got to work with that person. If that person feels they need time off, well, they likely need time off. You can't sit there and say you can work your way through something that they don't think they can.
Yeah, no. In terms of numbers yourself, like, are you still looking to grow in terms of sales yourself?
Yeah, I think so. I think I keep finding not holes in my business, but opportunities where I can become a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
So I think if we, if I'm I'll probably end up somewhere in the mid 2 millions. My own GCI this year, aside from my own team. I talk individual numbers. I think that could very easily get closer to 5 without too many adjustments.
Yeah.
Wow.
But those adjustments are all just process, right?
Yeah.
All just process.
Man, we got a viewer question that wanted to really understand and pick your brain about the listing.
Yep.
What are some of your...
I thought it was going to be about Jordan Belfort. I was like, I can't wait for these questions.
Mate, we'll bring out the Jordan Belfort in a second. But this one was more about the listing.
Yep.
I want to know your framework from how you go into a room, what you're looking for, observing the flow, and then when you sit down, what's the dialogue, especially when it comes to fee?
Great question. That is your opportunity when you are face-to-face with a client to show everything you can without saying, hey, I'm great at A, B, and C. That's your opportunity. So I'll always ask for a tour of the home first to give that opportunity to display my knowledge in a way that doesn't come, because if you sit down and say, hey, I know X, Y, and Z, it can come across a bit.
Yeah.
So, you take that opportunity. I worked in architecture for a long time, so it's easy to speak to different types of architecture or certain finishes and fittings. A seller will really appreciate that. And that's why I say to my guys, make sure you read these websites and these magazines and stay up to date with finishes. Because if you've got a certain type of flooring or bench top and it costs 5 times as much as another, and you point that out, that seller's going to be really happy that you know that.
Really, yeah.
Big time.
Because what is that seller going to think when you're standing there with a buyer?
You value that.
You value it, and you're showing product knowledge, and that's how we get a higher price, right? Otherwise, you're just doing what everyone else does. So it's just one of those small things. I'll always look for things like that.
Marty Fox is big on that.
Yeah, I think Marty Fox said that.
Yeah, it's all the great agents will. That's that's not a secret. That's just what they do. But they put the time and effort into researching
To do that, yeah.
So we've had
And then, sorry to interrupt. When you finish that process and you sit down, what dialogue are you using? And
I've already pre-framed it. I'll try and pre-frame everything so I never get caught in a situation where I'm saying things, the seller's sitting there going, why is he... No, they might not want you to pitch at that point in time. That might have been your opportunity to just come and view the house. You've got to be very cognizant of what this seller actually has you there for.
Yeah.
If you turned up with a compendium and a pen in your pocket, can't wait to discuss your marketing... And they're like, what are you doing, mate? I'm 3 months out and I'm getting 5 agents through. I wanted you to come back in 2 months. So I'll always pre-frame it and ask the right questions. You can never go wrong. You ask is just more questions, the better.
Yeah. One of our most recent guests has asked, which Melbourne agent will he invite to Brisbane for a real estate weight session?
Okay, so that will be Matt Pilios.
That was Matt Pilios.
Yeah, and I don't know if I want to get in the gym with that dude. He's looking,
unit, bro.
He's looking buff, man. So,
he's a unit.
Yeah, Matt, we'll have to put that one on ice, brother.
All right, another viewer question. When's the right time to hire your first staff member?
Before you think it's the right time. So
hire ahead of the curve.
Hire ahead of the curve. I would say the minute that thought is there, so that person is obviously having that thought now.
That's
now.
Yeah.
They
should have had it 3 months ago.
Correct. If you're on the verge of that, if you were going to give me that excuse like, I can't afford it right now, show me your pipeline. If your pipeline's looking good, get them on board.
Yep.
Because it's the way you scale, right? How else are you going to scale?
Yeah.
Completely.
Otherwise, you're going to get caught on that mouse wheel of just working harder. You've got to grow people.
100%.
It's interesting, that process of growing people, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
No, very good.
How many rude ones are in there?
What's I'm just trying to figure out which one
What's
I should
your
ask.
favourite drink?
Margarita, man.
Margarita, man, huh?
Margarita.
you
Oh,
like
wait,
that?
we're not talking water. Sparkling water. And
Coffee.
Then a margarita.
Yeah.
Here's a good one. I like this one. What's 3 things you'd tell a brand new associate to the industry?
It's probably going to be harder than you think.
Yep.
It's going to take longer than you think. And it will be way better than you think.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah.
Because you're 100% spot on.
Yeah.
That is bang on.
Where I see people go wrong in and around me and me previously is they overpromise young people by saying this is going to be the best, and they are around the best, and they're seeing all the best, and they're not really reaping any of that for themselves. I think you've got to be really honest with these younger guys and girls when they come into the business. Like, hey, there's a process to this. It's a 3-year apprenticeship, really. If you think about it like that, you can't go wrong.
Yeah. Yep. All right. I guess my last question for you, Drew, is...
Make it a banger.
It's going to be a banger. When you first started out, what was the hardest thing you had to deal with, and how did you overcome it?
Hard question, because I didn't know what I didn't know. And that served me well, because if I had have known, or if I had have known real estate agents or been around it, I would have said, fuck this. 1 month, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years in, but I didn't know because I wasn't friends with anyone in the industry. I wasn't from Brisbane. I knew nothing. So I kind of thought it was normal to not earn $1 in your first year. I was like, oh, well, I'll get there one day. So I kind of feel like that was a gift and a curse, not knowing. If I had been around people or saying, they were earning X amount, I would have been quite disheartened. So that was almost a benefit. But the hardest thing, look, everyone's got this story, but I had no data. I had no computer. I had no car. Show me someone who's had it tougher than not having a car when they're in real estate. So it was all of those things combined.
Yeah.
So if you can get through it just by being on the phone when you're up against it like that, it's anyone can do this. That's the thing, but no one wants to do the work.
No.
Truly.
Yeah.
If we can sit here, relatively successful in a lot of people's minds, and by no means geniuses, and we all say the same thing, right? Hard work, be a good person, routine, repetition, and process.
Spot on.
And every successful
And a
person
few
will say the
margaritas
same
along
thing.
the way.
Man, more margaritas. You can never go wrong with margaritas. I was half expecting there might be one here, man. I was like,
Man,
I was certain there's going to be a margarita here.
I don't drink. That's why.
At all?
Hey, we've got a shaker here.
I contemplate it quite often.
Yeah.
We've got the
I
shaker.
contemplate
Got
it.
the shaker.
There's a shaker. There's the margaritas. We'll find something.
Do you think you need to have a passion for real estate to be successful?
I think you've got to have a passion for people. I don't think it's real estate. I had a passion for architecture long before I had a passion for real estate. I think that's where people get it wrong. You know, a lot of young people, right? Especially you would have heard it yourselves. I love houses. Great. You know, but you got to love people, because you can love houses and not like people.
Yeah.
Houses don't. The house doesn't actually really matter, to be honest. It's about connecting with the person.
Correct. And you can sell a product in a house to someone without getting deep, but the way you get that best price and sell the best house to that best buyer is understanding that buyer and their needs. And there's no other way around that.
Yeah. Bang on. Loved it. Drew, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Man, we've got
What a potty.
I got away light, bro. I thought there was going to be. Well, got away light. I'm happy with that.
No, what? He killed it.
What were you expecting?
Oh no, I just thought there might have been a few other questions
More
thrown in
Jordan
there.
Belfort, more party, more bit outside the box.
Yeah, more margaritas than Jordan Belfort. I'm glad we didn't go there.
What tips do you have for any aspiring poker players?
Man, I'll tell you what. Poker taught me a lot about real estate. I will say that.
Go on to that.
Yeah, let's. All right. More questions.
You're
Okay.
at 48 minutes right now. You can go another 5.
Yeah, and here, I'm going to take the mic over to Dave.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a question, but I'm off
Okay.
screen.
Hit me.
And for the viewers, this is the most attractive member of the both sides team speaking. Yeah, question. You played poker. You've got a past in poker. We were talking off screen about that.
I do.
How does your experiences playing poker correlate with real estate, and what lessons have you carried over?
Great questions. Great question, and a lot. So poker really did help me in real estate. So I lived in Vegas for a while playing poker long time ago. The only time I stopped playing poker was when I got into real estate. Until then, I played poker religiously. Day I made my first commission in real estate was the day I stopped playing poker.
Really?
I thought this is
Were you
way
making
better.
money?
Enough to live in another country.
Really?
Yeah.
Why'd you stop?
It's stressful, man.
The
It's
lifestyle
stressful.
that comes
The
with-
lifestyle. My alarm was going off at 2 a.m. You know, because I'd get to the win at 2 a.m. It's when all the frat boys roll in, and it's where you go there sober and take all their money.
So, were you also one of those types of people where, like, I've actually spoken to a guy that plays professional poker, and he said what he'll do is he'll have like 10 screens on, and he'll be playing 10 games at a time just to train.
Yeah.
Were you doing that sort of thing?
No, because when I was in the States, it was all in-person poker. It came out later. I wasn't the best online player, but it is very good for building knowledge, because you can play 4 or 5 tables at a time, because it's just building that muscle memory, you know, for percentages and things like that. But to answer your question, the poker teaches you bankroll management. And I found that very important for when it came to real estate, especially before I had that big pipeline and fluent income. It was very much, because if you look at the best poker players, a lot of them are not actually the best poker players. They're the best at managing their money. There are a lot of great poker players that are consistently broke, because, like everyone, they level up and want to go to the next table and the next table. And sometimes you got to stay in your lane, right, and understand where your sweet spot is.
What's Vegas like? Never been.
It's amazing. I love Vegas. I've been there so many times, man. It's actually not as cool as it used to be. I don't know if I've got older or if I've changed, but I haven't been there. I went there last year. It was great. Went there with my wife, but it's not what it used to be.
In what sense?
They legalized weed, and that seems to have changed a lot over there.
Okay.
The whole place smells like it to start with.
What?
Yeah, it's like everywhere.
What do you mean?
You
You
can't.
just walk out of the airport, it smells like pot.
Everywhere.
Yeah. What?
You been there? You noticed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I fucking love Vegas.
Yeah.
I split my head open in Vegas. I still have a scar from that.
See, and still loves it. That answers your question about Vegas.
You'd be... I'm not gonna say that.
It's great. Vegas is great.
So let me ask you a question. You went to Vegas last year.
Yeah.
Did you play poker?
No, I played blackjack.
How'd you go?
Next question. I had a, when we first got there, my wife said, I'm going upstairs, check in, I'll get ready. And I said, I might just hit the tables quickly. And they still had me on record from when I lived there in 2008.
Really?
And they came to the table and were like, Mr. Davies, would you like a line of credit?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'll dabble.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't gamble a lot at all, but I just don't like losing.
Yeah.
And you didn't play some poker?
It's too time consuming, man. That's why I don't play anymore, and I still don't. It's not. It was exciting to me, and now it doesn't excite me.
It's not.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Blackjack's quick, in and you're out. Have a bit of fun, have a laugh.
Get out.
What's your biggest takeaway from Jordan Belford? The good, the bad, the ugly.
Oh man, there was a lot. But at the end of the day, you can't deny that the man has a gift when it comes to sales. You know, sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and an expert in your field. If you can nail those, and I'll remember that forever. If you can nail those three things at a simple level, you can't go wrong. It's like what I say to my boys, you know, strong body, strong mind, big heart. You nail those three things every day, you're gonna do okay. So those are the three biggest things. Just always be an expert, always be enthusiastic, and be sharp as a tack. You know, and you can't go wrong. He is a great salesperson.
Yeah, he is. I've seen some of his stuff. He
Yeah.
actually really is.
He's also done some bad shit.
Very best stuff. Not the best stuff in the world. But a great salesperson nonetheless.
Yeah, throws a good party too.
Very good party.
Yeah, throws a good party.
I bet.
He had this party. It was a motorbike, and it had the margarita shaker on the handlebars. Like it was teed up, like you had to ride the motorbike to make the margarita. It was brilliant.
What?
I thought that was
Wow.
brilliant.
That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
How'd you end up connecting?
I sold tickets for him to. You know how he came and spoke in what was it,
Yeah.
2014?
Yeah.
I was one of the 200 people he had selling tickets, like cold calling.
Yeah.
And it turns out me and this other gentleman outsold like the ticket websites.
Yeah.
Just by cold call. So he put us on the tour around Australia, and then after that he was like, you guys are awesome, I'm going to fly you to LA. So then he took us to LA to party for a week, which was great. And that's where that guy I met on that plane is the one who got me into real estate.
Wow. That's it's a wild story.
Yeah, it is. Even when I replay it, I'm like, I'm glad that transpired the way it did, because it does make for a pretty cool story.
That is a
and there's
wild-
like 10 different stories within the story.
But they're
Wow.
probably things that I share.
Yeah. Yeah, it was great.
My man. Any other questions for you?
What would you have a question for Kevin or myself?
Man, I'm surprised. Matt Pilios for stitching me up and putting me on here when you guys have had the guests that you've had is really humbling. So thank you. I'm glad. I hope I don't let you boys down. But
Man, it's been fire.
yeah, let's see if you can edit it into
What would be your
something.
best piece of advice for us too?
Man, keep doing what you're doing. You speak to people like humans. You've got a great attitude and outlook. That's what gets me excited. You can tell straight away when you meet someone if they're being their authentic self, and that can be a really hard thing, especially when you boys are all in your 20s. Quite often you don't find that all the time. That's the hardest thing, but especially a young man, to just be themselves. So that's I appreciate it coming in here. You've made me feel comfortable. I've had a great chat.
It's been awesome.
Like
Good
that's-
laugh.
Yeah.
What a blast.
You guys don't need advice, man. You're doing just fine.
Don't be silly. I'm not you yet. So.
I don't know if you want to be me, bro.
Mate, that watch and that size and the fucking hair, mate. Settle down. Look at the shoes.
There's no
Thank you,
Rolex
guys.
on my wrist yet, mate.
You guys are way too kind. Way too kind.
All right, man.
Thanks
you
for
so
tuning
much.
into the
Thank you
Both
for
Sides
having me.
podcast.
Thank you.
Holy smokes, we actually made it. Sorry to interrupt the podcast, but I just wanted to say a big thank you to all of our listeners, past and present, because we've officially hit 50,000 followers on Instagram. It's blown my mind to see how we've been able to build one of the biggest real estate brands in the country just off starting a podcast where we interviewed people starting in Zoom. So off the back of that, building all these relationships and having people know us in Perth, Adelaide, Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, we now have access to all these off-market properties which I can't service with my current clients. We've got more properties than I have clients. So if you are looking to buy your next home to live in or investment, please reach out. Additionally, I know Kevin is the king of Kellyville, but if you're not based in Kellyville and you are looking to sell your home, we know all the best agents and could put you in with the right fit that suits you. So Just wanted to give you a quick shout out, guys. Thank you so much for the support up until now. Both sides 50, baby.